So welcome to our webinar. We're going to be talking you through how to prepare for the SQE2 this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm just going to start off with some introductions. My name is Sydney. I'm the Student Recruitment Officer at the College of Legal Practice. I know that I've had a conversation with some of you, but for those of you that don't know, I basically deal with inquiries. So I oversee initial inquiries through to submitting an application to study with us. So I have had some conversations with some of the attendees this evening. We're also joined by Lisa, who is our SQE2 prep course module leader. So as you can see there, it says SLS module leader. That stands for the Solicitor's Legal Skills module, which is the name of our SQE2 prep course. And we're looking to have her here this evening to talk us through the assessments and the course that we offer. And last but certainly not least, we're joined by Tamana, who was one of our SQE2 students, and she's letting me quiz her on her experience with the SQE2 and also studying with us. So there's a quick introduction to who we are this evening. First of all, I'm just going to cover what we're going to cover this evening. So I'm going to give you a quick introduction to the College of Legal Practice, then we'll move on to SQE2 assessments and also our preparation course and how we help our students prepare to sit the SQE2. Then it's Tamana's time to shine. I'll be asking her about her experience, and then we'll go through upcoming start dates, what to consider when choosing your preparation course, and also the admissions criteria before finishing off with a Q&A section, like I mentioned previously. So when it comes to the College of Legal Practice, for anyone that doesn't know, we're a fully online postgraduate law school. So all of our courses are online. Our parent company are the College of Law in Australia, and they're the leading legal education providers in Australia. So overall, we do have over 25 years of digital learning expertise. Now, when it comes to our ethos, we're all about making the legal sector more accessible and making online courses to gain entry into the legal sector more affordable, while still providing personal and targeted individual support while our students are studying. And even though we're online, we want to make sure that we are providing an inclusive and supportive learning environment for all of our students. So that might come things like reasonable adjustments, just to make sure that everyone is making the most out of their course. And the reason that we do this is because we're just really passionate about facilitating increased access into the legal profession, because as I'm sure you know, traditionally, the law is known for being a profession with quite a few barriers. So we're just trying to do our part to remove some of them. I've just provided a quick snapshot at who we work with. So as you can see here, there are a few universities. And so usually that partnership looks like we provide the SQE preparation as part of their master's qualifications. And then we also have some law firms and some companies there where we will provide our standalone SQE preparation for their employees in the hope of them working towards becoming a solicitor. So that's the first bit from me. I am now going to pass it over to Lisa, who's going to start talking about what the SQE2 assessments are like and delve into what you're here for. Okay, so over to you, Lisa.
Great, thank you, Sydney. Hello, everybody. Good evening. It's really nice to see so many of you here wanting to learn more about SQE2 prep. So as Sydney said, I'm the module leader for the SQE2 prep, which we call SLS, Solicitors Legal Skills. And just to give you an idea where you're headed and what you'll be aiming to achieve by the end of the course if you study with us, I'll come back to those details later. But as far as the SQE2 assessments go, these are held by and run by the SRA, the Solicitors Regulation Authority. So we will be preparing you to sit the exams with the SRA. And you will be tested in oral and written skills across 5 practice areas. So those 5 practice areas are 5 of the practice areas you will already have covered as part of your SQE1. And they're mentioned there. We've got business, dispute resolution, property, criminal, and wills. And each of those skills will be tested each of those practice areas will be tested in these various skills. And the 2 oral skills on the right there are your advocacy and the client interview and attendance note. And then there are 4 written skills, which are case and matter analysis, legal drafting, legal research, and legal writing. So basically, it's a combination of those skills in those practice areas. And advocacy, as you'd expect, is going to be in the context of dispute resolution and criminal litigation only, because obviously it's only relevant to those. And the client interviewing and attendance note is tested in the context of business and also wills. And that really involves a mock interview with an SRA assessor who will play the part of the client, and you will play the part of the solicitor interviewing them to find out the information you need to then give them the legal advice that they're looking for. So when you come to do the assessments with the SRA, there are 16 skill assessments, so 16 different exams, if you like, spread out over various days. You've got 12 written assessments, and they are all held online. So in the same way, if you've done or you're doing your SQE1 at the moment, or if you've done your driving test, you'll know you go along to one of these test centres and you log onto a computer and you do all of the written assessments there at the test centre. And they take place over 3 days. So it's 3 fairly intense days, 4 assessments per day. And if you've done the maths, you'll realise that that's not quite enough for you to be tested on every single practice area in every single legal skill. And that's the case. The SRA will pick which combinations they'll test you on at the particular assessment time you go to. They do make that information available. There's actually a lot of information on the SRA website. You can find out a lot, and you can actually go in and see what the Pearson VUE test centre will look like. You can do a sort of a mock test, if you like, just to see what that will be like. So all of the written assessments are done online. And as I say, these are the SRA assessments. They are all done online. But the 4 oral assessments, so that's your 2 in the advocacy and 2 client interviewing assessments, they are carried out in person at hotels or conferencing facilities, whatever, in currently London, Cardiff, Birmingham and Manchester. And you will actually be in a room with a real life person, an assessor for the SRA, will conduct the interview or will play the part of the judge for the advocacy. And then those assessments go on throughout the year. So there are 4 sittings, January, April, July and October each year. So each of those sort of 16 assessments will be carried out, 4 times over the year. So if you sign up for April, you will do all of them, within a few weeks of each other in April. It's not that the assessments are split across the year. You pick which assessment window you want to go for. And then once you've allocated your dates, you'll know where you need to be on which date. And the SQE2 assessment fees at the moment, as it says there, is £2,902, and that is increasing in September for next year's intake. So that's what the SRA want you to do to be able to pass the SQE2 at the end of the day. So could you go on to the next slide, please, Sydney? So then what I want to talk about now then is how we are going to get you there. So how, by studying with College of Legal Practice, we can prepare you as best as you can be prepared for those assessments. So the cost there I've mentioned. It is online study. As Sydney said, we are fully remote, and we will do practice advocacy sessions and practice client interviewing and attendance note sessions with you, but they will be conducted on Zoom. So that's the only bit that will be different to what you'll do for the SRA assessments. If you pass the module, which is, we will assess you in 3 practice area and skill combinations at the end of the module. If you pass that, then you will gain 30 academic credits at level 7, which means if you're on our master's programme, then obviously you need to pass the module to continue with your master's. If you're not, you still do the assessments and you gain these credits, which you can then take with you to use at a later date if you decide to come back to some more studying. So worth knowing that whether you're on the master's pathway or not, you can still get the credits from passing our assessments at the end of the module. You'll have access to all of our SQE1 prep materials. So for those of you who've already studied SQE1 with us, it will be the same manuals again, so everything will look really familiar. And then we add on, if you like, for the SQE2 prep, these activities, and it is over 100 activities, including practice in the various skills across all the practice areas. So the dispute resolution, your criminal, property, wills and business. And we have a system where we take you through each combination of practice area and skill in a particular, and that's a study unit. And we will take you through those study units. The number per week will depend on whether you're studying full-time or part-time. So I think Sydney's got some information on that later on in terms of time required. But what we do is we put each practice area and skill together in the combination that you may get assessed in, so that you kind of revisit your SQE1 material, but now you're revisiting it in the context of how you would deal with the skills that you'll be tested on. And those 16 timed SQE2 skill practices there, that is an opportunity for you for the written work. You will upload your written submission and it will be marked by a subject matter expert. So I happen to have been a commercial property lawyer for 25 years, so I tend to deal with the property side of things. If we have subject matter experts across those practice areas, and your written submissions will be marked by them and you'll get some personal feedback. And for the oral assessments, the advocacy and the client interviewing, again, a subject matter expert will play the part of either the client or the judge in those scenarios, and you'll get some feedback on your oral skills as well. And then, as it says there, there's the 3 timed final assessments at the end of the course. That's what you need to pass to proceed through your masters, and we'll give you the academic credits. And then we also provide some revision materials as well, which you can use as once the structure of the course finishes, when you've got some sort of revision time at the end. And then we provide this hard copy skills guide. Everything else is online, and there is a copy of that online as well, but it's a really important document. So we send you a hard copy as well, because the skills is the new bit for SQE2. That's the bit that if you've done your SQE1, this is the bit that's new. So we send you this skills guide, and it's got lots of information about how to approach each of those skills that you're going to be assessed in. And all of the information that's in there will come out as part of your studies, but it's a really useful guide to have a look at the beginning and maybe revisit as you go through. And the personal supervisor that will be allocated to you, everybody will have their own personal supervisor, and you'll meet at various points throughout the course. And as you proceed through the course, as you're getting nearer the end, then we will have a discussion with you about whether it looks as though you're going to be SQE2 ready. Which again, you can judge that yourself, because you'll see how well you're doing. You'll know your grades as you go along. And we'll be telling you what you need to be aiming for so that you can judge whether you're SQE2 ready. But it's quite nice to have a conversation with a supervisor as well, just to make sure that you're on track. Okay, can you go to the next one for me? So this is how the course works. So as I say, we are online. You will have each week you will be given a sort of study units that you need to study in your own time. If you are doing or done your SQE1 with us, you'll know that in our calendar we sort of set out each day the parts of the manual we suggested that you worked on and the various activities. What we do for SQE2 is we just show you what it is that you need to achieve that week, but then we leave you to it to fit around whatever other commitments you've got, as to when you can do the reading and the practicing and all that kind of thing. But there are various points every week where you will have the opportunity to meet someone face to face on Zoom. And the town hall meetings, as we call them, those are hosted by me as module leader. And it's really just to give you lots of useful sort of high level information. That's not practice area specific. That's just explaining what's happening this week. The first 2 meetings that we have are really just to get you going so everybody knows what they're doing and how to approach the course. So there are various town hall meetings throughout the course. They are 30 minutes each, although the first one is a bit longer, just while we show you everything. And then the surgeries, those are the practice areas. They are mini lectures, really, and there are 2 for each of those 5 practice areas, so that's 10 in total. And what we try to do with those is, obviously in 2 lots of 30 minutes, we can't go through the whole SQE1 manual, but we will pick out the trickier parts of that particular practice area and give you tips on how to approach the skills, because again, that's the new bit for SQE2 that is new to you, is learning how to do the skills. And then you will also have 2 group supervisor meetings. So those are with your personal supervisor, but you will be in the group of around 10 students is a rough idea. You have 2 group sessions, and then you also will have 3 individual sessions on Zoom, just you and your personal supervisor. And those will be 15 minutes long. And really, that's just to track your progress, see how you're doing. It's a chance for you to ask questions, although really you can ask questions at any time as you go through the course. And then those group feedback sessions, once you've submitted a written piece of work, which the subject matter expert will mark for you, and you'll get some personal feedback. Usually the following week, sometimes the week after that, but usually the following week, you'll then have a group session for all of you who did that particular submission at that time with the supervisor who marked it, to give you some, doesn't pick anybody out by name, but it just gives you some overall themes, some generic feedback, picks up on points where maybe students, you know, there were a lot of students made the same mistakes, pulled out the really good examples of best practice. So there's quite a lot of opportunities there to meet people online. And as it says there, and we really need to be clear about that, that they do take place in normal working hours. So that's 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And those times are fixed because obviously we've got a schedule ready, and we need to let students know, you know, when everything is taking place. Everything I've mentioned there, except your individual sessions with your personal supervisor, is recorded. So if you can't make it because you are working, which is highly likely, especially if you're on one of the part-time courses, then you'll have access to all of those recordings, and we make those available to you, you know, later the same day that the whatever the session is when it's taken place, we will then send you either by email, or I can show you on the course calendar in a moment, we make available the recordings. So you won't miss out just because you're not available at that time. If you've got a work meeting that you just can't get out of, then you won't miss out. The only exception, as I say, is the one-to-one meetings, because if you're not there, then there's no meeting. Great, go on to the next one then, please. Okay, right. So if you stop sharing, Sydney, I will share with you a sample of a course homepage. Sorry, my share button. There we go. My share button disappeared for a minute then. Right, here we are. So I hope you can see that. Can you just nod for me, Sydney, so I know it's there?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the course homepage of a course that is currently running. And there's a lot of information here. You know, you can't obviously read it all now, but just to say, we give you lots of information at the outset, just to let you know what you'll be doing, how you'll be doing it, where the support is, where do you find IT support, how do you get hold of student services. There's lots of information in here about setting up the course so that you get notifications to your phone if we make any announcements about anything. You will have, the calendar will be set out for the whole duration of your course, so you can, you know, go through and mark down some particular dates. And then there's lots of information here, which I won't go through now, about, you know, various bits of information you need. And then at the bottom of the screen here, this is the links to all of those practice area and skill combinations, if you like, that I mentioned. So if we say in week 1, you will be studying, say, legal research in the context of criminal litigation, then you will go into this box here and you can see that there is a legal research there for criminal litigation. And then once you click into it, it then takes you through all the sort of the self-study that you need to do. We will also have announcements. We make regular announcements on the courses if there's anything that we need to let you know. We'll let you know about important booking dates for your SRA examinations, because that's obviously done independently of the college. So you need to book your place with the SRA, but we'll keep you up to date with booking windows and things like that when they open. And then just to show you, before I show you an example of the calendar, in these discussions here, you can see the heading there, surgery recordings. So every time that there is a surgery in one of those practice areas, so 2 business, 2 property, 2 for each of the other practice areas. As I said, if you miss it, and even if you attend the live session, you may enjoy it so much you'd like to go back and watch it again. We will make the recordings available on those discussion boards there, and the same for the town hall meetings, also in the list there. So again, if you can't make the session, you can go into there. Usually later that day, the recording is available, but certainly no later than the next day. So there's lots of information there. And then the other thing, just to show you, to give you an idea, is the course calendar, which if I just go back to the home, on the right-hand side here, you can view the course calendar. So as I said, this is a course that is, oh, sorry. Oh, I just moved that. There we are. This is a course that is already running. But to give you an idea, in this 1 week, this is a full-time course. So this is a 10-week course. So obviously, the work you do, the work you'll do with us is the same, whether you study over 10, 20 or 40 weeks. But obviously, we just spread it out over that time so that it's in manageable chunks, depending on, what your other commitments are. But as an example, everything with a calendar icon, so here, town hall meeting, the town hall meetings, and we've got a business 2 surgery there, and we've got personal supervisor sessions there. Everything with a calendar icon is, something, an opportunity for you to be face to face. And then the paper and pen icon here, this is the submission telling you when something is due in, basically. And if you hand it in on time by that date, then you will get some personal feedback from the subject matter expert who's marking that those submissions for you. And then on every Sunday, and these will all be in the calendar when you start the course, every Sunday there will be some information about what you will be studying next week. So I'll click on that one as an example. And for the following week, we tell you what you'll be studying on your own time, and then also the other activities that are on your Canvas calendar. So, I mean, you don't need to digest all of that right away, but just to give you an idea that's how the course calendar works. We direct you towards the self-study, and the message really is try and keep up to date on a weekly basis, but we don't say you've got to do it on Monday or Tuesday. Try and keep up on a weekly basis. And then within your calendar, you'll have all of those sort of timed entries of the various times when, if you can be there live, there will be a session and a supervisor there to talk to you. And if you can't be, then we'll make the recording available later. So yes, I think that's all I wanted to show on that. Thank you, Sydney.
That was great. Thank you for talking us through that. Even I learned something, because obviously being in recruitment, I've seen the demos and I have access to some of the courses, but it's really great to have you talk us through it. So thank you so much, Lisa.
No problem.
I'm going to take over from this point. I'm going to be asking Tamana about her student experience. So just to start off with, can you just give us, can you just tell everyone a little bit about yourself, your name, where you work, your role, things like that, so people have a bit of context.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tamana Habib. I'm a newly qualified solicitor. I work in a firm in King's Cross in London. I specialise in family law, and I sat the SQE with the College of SQE2 with the College of Legal Practice last year. This time, as in I studied with them.
Brilliant. So, when was it that you sat the SQE2?
So I sat the SQE2 April last year, so April 2024.
Okay, great. So it's fab that you're here because we can properly quiz you about your experience. But before I ask you about your experience on the course and also what it was actually like sitting the SQE2, what was it that made you initially want to become a solicitor and take this route?
So I feel like from a young age I was always interested in law, and I was quite good at the analytical subjects like history and English. Yeah, maths was not like my best subject, so I leaned towards the analytical subjects. And then I also really enjoyed law at uni. I did LLB, and then I thought, the next step is to become a solicitor. So yeah, that's how I went about it. And just as I finished my LLB, that's when we were told that a new course is coming out, the SQE, and then I thought, oh, that's the exam I'll sit.
So did you have the option to do the LPC or the SQE?
And yeah, I had the option to do both, yeah.
Okay, and so have you got an LPC background or have you done the SQE as a whole?
I did the SQE as a whole, yeah.
What made you decide to do the SQE over the LPC?
I think because for the LPC you had to go back to uni, whereas I was told that for the SQE there was like an option to do it remotely. And after I graduated, I started working, and then I wanted to do the SQE so I can study alongside my work rather than, go back to uni. I know I could have done it part-time, but I was just told that the SQE, is more flexible, and that's what I wanted to go for.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Because of the prep courses out there, there are a lot of
Mhm.
options to fit around your other commitments. So a lot of students that we
Mhm.
get, they are working. So it's great that you sort of had that experience yourself because you can talk about it. So what was it that made you decide to study with the college for SQE2?
So for SQE1 I self-studied, and it was quite difficult, but then I thought for SQE2 I need to have a go with a course provider. And I did research into quite a few course providers at the time, and I thought the College of Legal Practice offered like a very structured course, and obviously with like the fees as well, they offered like to pay in installments, which helped as well because I was self-funding. And yeah, I did go through some of the samples, and I liked the way it was structured, and I thought that was something that I would like to go into, and that's why I chose the College of Legal Practice.
Okay, Brill. So just for context for the attendees, we have 3 separate study options. We have a full-time, a part-time and an extended part-time. I am going to go into more detail about this later, but Tamana, can you just clarify which option you did?
I did the 10-week course.
How did you find the full-time course while working?
Yeah, it was quite intense. Yeah, that was one of the tips I was going to give everyone to, time management is key if you're working and trying to juggle studying at the same time. So yeah, time management I think is key. And I was lucky in that my employer was quite flexible, so I was allowed to like work from home more days than before, so I could, the commute time I could just spend studying. So that really helped as well.
Oh, that's really good. It's nice that you had such a supportive employer. But I guess they're reaping the benefits now, though. So
yeah, it's true.
so
Yeah, I'm
that's
still
good.
with the same firm. Yeah.
Oh, that's really good to know. And just off the back of that, for everyone here, when it comes to the classes, obviously Lisa's highlighted it is between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. We do recommend talking to your employer if you are working alongside your studies and just seeing whether or not they can accommodate, those different surgeries and town hall meetings, etc. But they are recorded if your employer isn't as accommodating as Tamana's was. So you've already mentioned your tip would be time management, and that is a great tip. That's definitely something that comes through a lot from all of our students. Was there anything that you wish you knew before going into SQE2 preparation?
Just to be aware that it's going to be intense, and just the SQE exam as a whole. I'm sure everyone who's planning to sit it knows, the controversy and how it's, really difficult, especially, I mean, SQE1 and SQE2 are really difficult exams to just, be mentally prepared and um, to put in the hard work and, like again, manage their time efficiently to study. And with SQE2 especially, I feel like there's 2 things you have to focus on, the skills and the legal knowledge. Whereas with SQE1, it's just legal knowledge. So with SQE2, you've got 2 things you have to, think about and practice. So yeah, that's what I would say, and for people who've sat SQE1 to try and this is something I didn't do, but I would recommend for people to just try to remember. Well, it's easy to say, but try to remember and keep up with, refresh their knowledge of SQE1, and then that would make it easier just to, learn the skills and improve their skills.
Yeah, they're both really good points. When we have our conversations with inquirers, we're quite transparent of the fact that the SQ2, it does test your knowledge and skills. We tend to say it's 50-50 because you are carrying forward that knowledge. So that's a really important point that you've made. So it's great that you've highlighted that. Thank you. If it doesn't work out in your current role, you can do my job and you'll be great at it, I'm sure. You'll be fantastic. Okay, so in regards to time management, I mean, did you have any tricks to that? Like, was it just relying on your calendar? Do you have a diary? Did you have any tips?
Yeah, I was going to say the course is really good in that on Sundays I would check what I have for the rest of the week, and then I'll just let my employer know, and then put it in my diary that this is what we're going to study, just brush up on my legal knowledge. And I think, as Lisa mentioned, all the SQE1 material is available. So before we had a session, I would just like brush up on my legal knowledge of, let's say it was property or crime, like criminal. So yeah, again, just to be prepared to study, and also, yeah, I'd say preparation is key.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if anyone else has any questions, then please do feel free to pop them in the chat. I guess my last one for you is, we get asked quite a lot about the level of support. Even today, I got asked about the level of support. Do you feel like you were well supported, even though we were an online course?
Yeah, I think, I would say I was well supported. So even though the course is online, I feel like it's very interactive, and you do get a lot of support, especially with you get assigned your own supervisors. So I think that was like particularly helpful, because at the end of the course, I sat down with my supervisor, we had a meeting, we went through all the assessments that I had submitted, the average grade that I had, and then she advised me that I think you're ready to, sit it. But I know some other people were advised to maybe like take their time and sit the next sitting. So I think that was really helpful, because I was on the fence on whether I should sit the SQE2 in April or go for the one in July. But she thought that I'm ready, and I mean I did pass, so I think her advice was quite good and accurate.
Great. We have actually just had a question come through. Did you find SQE1 or SQE2 harder? That's a good question.
I think, well, they're both as hard as each other, but for me, I think SQE1 was a bit more difficult, because I graduated in 2017, and then I had a big gap of no studying at all. So getting into, the routine of studying again, learning again, a lot of things that I studied in my LLB did come up in SQE, but I just had to like refresh my memory completely, and just to learn everything. Whereas for the SQE, if you've still got the knowledge, it's the skills that you need to work on. Whereas with the SQE, you're starting from scratch, learning everything. So, but they're both quite difficult. But I'd say SQE1 is more, that's the first hurdle to get through.
Yeah, definitely. And I think from the conversations that I've had, a lot of people would agree with that. Obviously, when people are moving on to the SQ2 because they have that background knowledge, they're sort of, they're nearly there. So they already have part of the puzzle piece in. Do you have something to add, Lisa?
Oh, it was just to say that I'd agree, but I would have thought mainly because SQE1, there's 13 practice areas to deal with. The good thing about SQE2 is that's been narrowed down just to not lightly, but to 5 that you can then focus on while you're then trying to learn all of the skills that you need to go with them.
Yeah, definitely. And just going back to what you said before, Tamana, about, you were saying try and remember what you can from SQE1. I think another tip that's really good is for anyone that hasn't come from an LPC background and that's here and has got an SQ1 background, find your notes. Keep them, keep them, refer back to them. I mean, as Lisa highlighted with our course, you do get the SQ1 prep materials, but if you have already written notes that, you know, you understand, then definitely keep hold of them. Is there new subject matter in SQE2 or has it all been covered in SQE1?
It's all been covered in SQE1. So the 5 practice areas for SQE2 are 5 of the 13 from SQE1.
So hopefully you'll be not a pro, but you'll feel more comfortable by the time you get to SQ2 and you're going to be applying those practice areas to the skills. But anyway, it's Tamana. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for chiming in as well. If anyone else has any questions for Tamana or Lisa, again, pop them in the chat. There will be an opportunity at the end for us to answer them. But for now, I am going to share my screen again, and I'm just going to talk you through our different study options in more detail and also our start dates. So thank you so much again, Tamana.
Thank you, Sydney.
No problem. If you can just confirm when you could see my screen, that would be brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. All right then. So I briefly touched on it, but we have 3 study options. Now, the reason for this is because a lot of our students are working on a full-time or a part-time basis. And as you've probably gathered, the SQE2, well, the SQE generally, it can be quite hard to pass. So we're trying to do our part again by offering different study options. So when it comes to our full-time course, that's what Tamana did. It's 10 weeks and it's 30 to 35 hours of study per week. Generally speaking, we would not recommend this for anyone that is working on a full-time basis. It's mainly suitable for those that are either not working or are working on a part-time basis. Not to say that people can't, you know, work full-time and study full-time and pass SQE2. Tamana is a walking example, but that's just a recommendation that we would give. Okay, we also have our 20-week course, so this is our first part-time option. And it's 15 to 20 hours of study per week. And this is recommended for people that are working full-time, but it is better suited for those with family or caring commitments as well as working full-time. But if, you know, you do have a high level of commitment, or, you know, you are coming from an LPC background and you don't have that up-to-date SQE1 knowledge, then generally speaking, we would recommend our 40-week extended part-time course. So that's 8 to 10 hours per week. In regards to the LPC background, the reason that we recommend it is because we will give you the materials for our SQE1 prep course. You'll also have the support when preparing for SQE2, but not accounted in those 8 to 10 hours of study each week is the extra revision that you will need to do to bring your knowledge up to speed for SQE1. So we would recommend the 40-week course. You know, if you have high levels of commitment, you maybe don't have the most up-to-date knowledge when it comes to the practice areas, you know, you're working full-time, things like that. We do actually have a web page where you can sort of determine what course would be best for you. I think that I've provided the QR code on a later slide, but if I haven't, I'll send it in the email with the recording anyway. But regardless, as you can probably see on there, regardless of which study option you choose, it's still £2,700 if you start in 2025, or it will be the same fee in 2026. With it, whichever study option you choose, it doesn't change the fee. The only thing that differs is that the full course fee needs to be paid by halfway through the course. So obviously, if it's the full-time course, it's 5 weeks. If you are self-funding and you are struggling a bit more financially, again, then the extended part-time might be better for you because you'll have more time. It doesn't need to be paid until 20 weeks into the course. Okay, but regardless, the £150 non-refundable deposit, that's non-negotiable, and you will pay that upon accepting your place onto whichever course you apply for. Okay, any other questions that you might have in regards to that, again, please pop them in the chat. I'll come back to them. But I'm just going to move on now to what to consider when choosing a prep course. We have already covered quite a few of these, and some of them might seem self-explanatory, but we have you know, you'd be surprised how many people maybe haven't considered these things. So we thought it would be a good idea to just talk through them. So first and foremost, it's the cost. So think about your overall budget. The SQE does make it more, the legal sector more accessible because you don't have to have a degree in law and you don't have to go on to do the LPC. But when it comes to the cost, it is still quite expensive. So think about the overall cost, include the course fee, the assessment fee, travel fees for the actual assessment. Take it all into consideration and consider the funding options available to you, because that can influence which course you're going to study and choose, and also what study option, going back to what I've just talked through as well, when it comes to the timelines of payment. The other thing that we've already mentioned is time. Just make sure that you're choosing a course where you do have the time to complete the study necessary to prepare for SQE2. If you don't have 30 to 35 hours of study each, 30 to 35 hours available for study each week, do not pick the full-time course. It's going to add unnecessary pressure and stress onto your sort of SQE journey when it's already really quite stressful. Okay. The other thing is the level of support that you are getting. Just make sure that when you are shopping around, you're checking what support you're getting. You're checking who you're getting the support from as well. As Lisa mentioned, they're all expert. All our supervisors are experts within their field. So they know what they're talking about, and that's fantastic for our students. So just double check, you know, whether or not that's the same with other course providers out there. Read the reviews, just make sure that you are getting a true reflection of the support you want, and then make your decision from there. Another one is environment. It probably seems so obvious, but if you have never done online study before and you're not really sure that it's going to be an environment where you thrive doing it from home, chances are our online courses aren't for you. If you are better in a classroom setting where you have your peers around you, then it is going to cost a bit more money, but I do believe the courses are out there. But that's probably going to be better for you long term and make your study a more enjoyable experience. Next is the flexibility. You know, if you are working full time, got high family commitments, things like that, just make sure that you're choosing a course that fits around your other commitments, which we've already touched on. And then lastly, I've already touched on this as well, is your existing knowledge. Think about how well you know the SQE1 practice areas that are being carried through to SQE2. And as I said, if you're coming from an LPC background, or if you only just sort of scraped a pass with the SQE1, then just make sure what SQE1 prep materials you are getting as part of your course so that you can bring your knowledge up to speed, and ultimately it will benefit you in the long run when it comes to sitting the SQE2 as well. So those are some key considerations. Hopefully they've helped a few of you. I have included the QR code. So this webpage basically aims to help people looking to study for the SQE. It just highlights some more considerations and helps you determine what course might be best for you. So that's in regards to the different study options that we have available. So it'll help you sort of determine which option with us specifically might be the best fit for you. Okay, so give that a scan if you can, but if you've not had chance, because I am going to move on, I'll send you a copy of the slides for anyone that missed that at the beginning. Now I'm just going to briefly touch on this. It's the application deadlines. So we run our courses in line with SQE assessment sittings. So as you can see there, there's a few with the SQE2 prep courses. They run more frequently than SQE1 prep courses just because there's more sittings. If you scan that QR code, it does take you to our course calendar. The 17th of March extended part-time course. If anyone has come to this webinar and you think the college are fantastic, I need to sign up right now, then we are still accepting late applications. I would recommend sending the info@collegalpractice.com an email just letting us know that you are wanting to sign up to that if it applies to you, and I will send you the application steps clearly stated of your instructions what to do, because it's a little bit different if you're applying late. But if that's not the best course for you, then you can see we have a lot of others to choose from as well. Okay. Now, just before we move on to the questions from everyone, I've included the admissions criteria. Most of you probably already know that in order to sit the SQE2, you do have to have done the LPC or pass the SQE1. This admissions criteria is specifically to do our SQE2 preparation course. So you don't have to have passed SQE1. You don't have to have done the LPC if you don't want to, but you probably not the best thing to sign up for our SQE2 prep course if you haven't. You just need an UK undergraduate degree with a minimum 2-2 classification or equivalent qualification or experience, or 3 A-levels alongside at least 2 years work experience in legal services as well. Applications are invited from those with a 3rd class degree. Everyone's considered on a case-by-case basis. We just ask that you submit a personal statement explaining any factors that contributed to getting a 3rd class degree, for example, bereavement, illness, anything like that. And then lastly, if English isn't your first language, we ask for an IELTS. However, if you speak fluent English and you can evidence this from submitting your CV because you've lived in the UK for 20 years and you use English every day, then that's absolutely fine. You don't need to have an IELTS. We do accept different qualifications or experience and evidence instead. So don't worry too much about that. Okay. So now we will answer any questions that you might have had. Take full advantage of Lisa and Tamana being here. I'm going to stop sharing at this point just to check the chat bar and see whether or not we have any questions. Okay, so do we have access to the SQE1 online material as well as the books? If so, does that access start before the beginning of the SQE2 course?
So, yeah. So for SQE1, you will receive hard copies of the manuals for those 13 practice areas, as well as having access online. For SQE2, as far as I know, Tamana might know if she was sent hard copies, but as far as I know, if you just come for SQE2, then you'll have access to the online versions. But I don't think we send hard copies to SQE2 students. Can you remember, Tamana? Or you're on mute.
Yeah, it was online.
It was
I
all
don't think we
online.
was hard
No, I
copies,
didn't
but it
think
was
so.
quite easily accessible on
Great.
on Canva.
Thank you. So if you've studied SQE1 with us, you'll have your hard copies, but of course the law gets updated. So you may need to be referring to the online versions anyway, because we don't send out new hard copies for SQE2 students. And you have access to the course only for a week before the course starts. So again, if you are new to College of Legal Practice, we don't have any way of making the materials available to you earlier than that. So it's really just a week before the course.
Yeah, although even though the materials for the course don't become available until the week prior, if you apply in advance and you accept your offer onto the course, we do send you a pre-course study pack. And that includes, I believe it's the reading materials for the 3 of the practice areas from SQE1. So we send you chunks of the manual. It's a PDF version, but you will get a pre-course study pack that has the reading materials for the first 3 practice areas. So that's kind of an incentive, obviously, to enroll sooner, and then you will have that advantage when going in to do your SQE2 prep course.
Oh, well, there you go. I've learned something as well. Thank you, Sydney. I didn't know that.
I'm here to educate. We're all about learning this evening. Does anyone else have any questions at all? Feel free to pop them in. But I think that's everything.
Yeah,
Given that we do.
I was just going to go back. Sorry, Sydney, just to go back over what you said about study hours. Don't look at those numbers that we gave there about the 8 to 10 hours or 25 to 30 hours or whatever it is and think, oh, right, I can just about manage that. I think I can just about squeeze, 30 hours into a week. If that's what you're thinking, then I think be really realistic. That would be my tip, is just be realistic when you're looking at it. Anybody who's working, I mean, I really take my hat off to you, Tamana, but anybody who's working and doing SQE2 full time at the same time, I'm not imagining there's a lot of sleep going on and probably not much of a social life. So
Yeah, no social life.
no, which for 10 weeks you maybe think, well, it's a reasonably short, sharp shock. I can dig deep and do that. But just be really realistic with yourself as to how much time you can give it. And that's why we offer the 3 different versions of the course. So that, you know, you've not either got to pick 10 weeks or 40 weeks. The 20-week course, sort of in the middle, is possibly the best of both worlds. It doesn't go on too long, but it doesn't require you to do so much per week that you literally, you know, can't remember your name at the end of every week. So that would be my tip when you're looking at the different courses, is just be realistic. And those numbers aren't set in stone, as Sydney said. When you're coming at it from a different, even you may have done SQE1, but you may have done it a year ago, and it's a year since you know, looked at any of those manuals. As Tamana said, if your legal knowledge is right there when you start your SQE2, then, you know, that might well be possible, but you do need to factor in some revision time as well. So that would be my only piece of advice, is don't set yourself up to make it even more difficult than, as Sydney says, it's already a difficult, stressful course, you know, and assessments to do. So don't set yourself up to make it any more difficult than it needs to be. Even if you really, really just want to get on and get through it, just be realistic, you know, in your own mind as to, can I really genuinely find that many hours a week to do the study, and possibly more, depending on how up to date your SQE1 knowledge is.
Yeah, definitely. I know that I've spoken to a few people that, like, I just want to get it out the way, and I completely understand that. But if you can't dedicate the hours to study, chances are you're going to spend a lot of money and then going to have to spend it again if you ultimately fail. Because with the SQE2, if you fail one element, you have to resit all of it, don't you?
No, if you fail overall, you have to resit all of it. So you have to pass overall across all the assessment stations. So you can afford to do less well in some and do really well in others, and they will average each other out. But if you do fail overall, you have to resit all 16. So yes, and we didn't mention that, but just to say that in the last few sittings across the last couple of years, the pass mark has been 61 or 62% from the SRA. It was a little bit higher than that at the beginning. I think it started off at 66, but it's settled pretty much at 61, 62%. So that's what, and all of the assessment stations are equally weighted. So you need to pass overall, whatever the pass mark is for that sitting. And as I say, at the moment, it's been around the low 60s.
No, that's really good. Thank you for highlighting that. Right, well, I think that what is the pass rate for the College of Legal Practice? See, this is a really good question that we do get quite a lot. And the short answer is, we don't have any exact stats that we can give you, because we want it to be a true reflection of a full cohort. And what's proving very difficult is getting hold of our cohorts, especially when it comes to SQE2, because once they're passed, we don't hear from them, which is great. But when it comes to getting some statistics, it does make it a bit difficult. I know that there are other providers out there. This is a really good point, actually. There are other providers out there that do provide pass rates, and that's fantastic. But you need to be asking about who they're based on and how many people, because I know that there have been providers, when it comes to SQE1, their pass rate was 100%, and it was actually based on 8 apprentices. So it's not a true reflection of all of their students. And Giles, who's our CEO, is really big on making sure it is a true reflection when it comes to our stats specifically. And that's why we don't have them. But if pass rates are important to you, then obviously we completely understand. Just make sure you are asking these other providers, how many people are they based on, and which cohorts in the course and things like that. Just make sure you're asking for a bit more information, because if they can't specify that, it might be a bit of a flag.
It might be that what they're giving you is the pass rate based on the students who've let them know how well they did. And it might be quite surprising. I certainly have to say I was surprised to find out that the SRA don't provide any statistics on, we don't get any information from the SRA as to how well our students do, because actually the SRA don't necessarily know who our students are. And the reason
Yeah.
is when you sign up to book your place on the SRA assessment, I think you are asked to confirm which provider you used, but you don't have to. And I also believe that the list is quite long, so some students have just ticked other because they can't find theirs in the list at a first glance, so they tick other. And then, you know, which is fine. It doesn't make any difference to how well they do or what they're doing, but it means that the SRA actually don't have that information. So we are completely reliant on students letting us know after the event how well they did. And as Sydney said, we find out more SQE1 because they come back to do their SQE2 when they've got their good news for their SQE1. But for the SQE2, quite rightly, you know, students are going off and sort of dancing off into the sunset because they're so pleased it's all over.
They don't want to speak to us. They're like, I'm free, I've done it.
Yeah. So it's a really good question, and I just want to emphasize what Sydney said, that it's a really honest answer, and that is, as she said, Giles, our CEO, is very keen on that because there are some misleading statistics out there, and all of the other providers are in exactly the same position as us. They are reliant on their own students letting them know because the SRA don't provide that information. So you know, pass rates take with a pinch of salt, which I appreciate for those of you trying to decide which provider to use, you know, is one significant piece of information you'd really like to know. But it isn't there, and it's not there in any meaningful way that we could give it to you or that you could use it to compare the various providers. So I suspect in the future that might be tightened up, and there might be more work done by the SRA to try and actually make sure they capture that information correctly when students sign up, and then they will be able to provide pass rate information that's reliable.
Hopefully, we are working to get them. I mean, we're about to finish, but I have made many an outbound call trying to determine what our pass rates for SQE1 was, and it was very difficult to do that. But yeah, when it comes to pass rates and you're speaking to the providers, just double check. But if it gives you some reassurance, our SQE readiness reviews are incredibly accurate as long as you are engaging in the practice and feedbacks, and you're speaking to your supervisors and you're attending those meetings and staying up to date with your study. Your supervisors really do have a great reflection as to whether or not they think, you know, you're looking likely to pass. You maybe should think about rescheduling, or if you're on the brink, and then you kind of have to determine what you want and see whether or not we have any questions. Okay, so do we have access to the SQE1 online material as well as the books? If so, does that access start before the beginning of the SQE2 course?
So for SQE1, you will receive hard copies of the manuals for those 13 practice areas, as well as having access online. For SQE2, as far as I know, Tamana might know if she was sent hard copies, but as far as I know, if you just come for SQE2, then you'll have access to the online versions. But I don't think we send hard copies to SQE2 students. Can you remember, Tamana? Or you're on mute.
Yeah, it was online.
It was
I
all
don't think
online.
we were sent, hard copies, but it was quite easily accessible on Canva.
Thank you. So if you've studied SQE1 with us, you'll have your hard copies, but of course the law gets updated. So you may need to be referring to the online versions anyway, because we don't send out new hard copies for SQE2 students. And you have access to the course only for a week before the course starts. So again, if you are new to College of Legal Practice, we don't have any way of making the materials available to you earlier than that. So it's really just a week before the course.
Yeah, although even though the materials for the course don't become available until the week prior, if you apply in advance and you accept your offer onto the course, we do send you a pre-course study pack. And that includes, I believe it's the reading materials for the 3 of the practice areas from SQE1. So we send you chunks of the manual. It's a PDF version, but you will get a pre-course study pack that has the reading materials for the first 3 practice areas. So that's kind of an incentive, obviously, to enrol sooner, and then you will have that advantage when going in to do your SQE2 prep course.
Oh, well, there you go. I've learned something as well. Thank you, Sydney. I didn't know that.
I'm here to educate. We're all about learning this evening.